Welcome back to Proxying, everybody, and today we have Dead of Night here again, and we are going to be talking about some crazy Eldar lists that would blow your mind. Really nuts stuff, memes, basically, but effective memes, right, Dead of Night?
Oh, we love the meme all the time, every time.
Oh yeah, dude, but we want to win with the memes, right? We don't want to just like put it out there on the field for it to die in a couple turns. Like we want that meme to, just absolutely wreck, right? So tell me about the list that you came up with the other day.
So, this is a baby I've had for a long time, and I've owned the models because I'm probably one of the few Eldar freaks that does, but it's just running max Warlock Skyrunner Conclaves with the Farseers. Um, and it's a lot of hate. Obviously, it's way overcosted points wise, and I understand that, but
Hmm.
I think there's things we can do to make it maybe work. I think you kind of agree.
Yeah, I think it could be really effective actually. And there's a reason for it, but I want you to go ahead and just explain real quick what's in the list. Like what do you got? Like we know we have Warlock Skyrunners, but what else is in the list? What makes the list work? And what's the goal of the list?
So the goal of the list is speed and kind of board control. Not in the sense of board control where we're going to hold maybe a particular piece of the board, but we're going to go to that piece of the board, expose it, explode it, and then we're going to move on to the next piece of the board. But we're going to do it very fast. And we're going to do it. And this is kind of the same Han fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool here, too, is we run a lot of Windriders. So between all the conclaves and farseers and our Windrider squads, everything's guided. Everything rerolls hits,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautiful.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. Like rerolling hits on like things like Wind Riders are rerolling hits against units on objectives. Your Farseers are casting, your Farseer Skyrunners are casting guide on their own units of Warlock Skyrunners, right? They're rerolling their
Right.
hits.
Yep.
It's massive damage. Plus, you're getting lethal hits from the Shroud Runners, which you also have in there,
Exactly.
right?
So the Shroud Runner thing, and I mean, I've kind of been on the fence of 2 to 3 squads of them, at minimum two, I think. We want to be able to paint 2 targets a turn, I feel.
Hmm.
But that lethal hits makes it so basically all of our guided units can target anything in the game.
Hmm. Yeah, so we don't
And I think
have to
that's one of the
rely
most
on that
powerful.
anti-tank.
Exactly. So I think that's a very powerful sort of strategy. If any of my units can shoot any of your units, that's an
Hmm.
advantage.
Yeah. Especially if we look at the Warlock Skyrunner Conclave, a lot of people think this unit's garbage, and it's pretty overcosted, right? I mean, they're 50 points apiece. It's 50 points for a 3 wound model, you know? Yeah, they have basically inbuilt fortune, which is nice, but it's not
It,
going to allow you to survive against a
it is
kind of,
it is it is sneaky good though. It is sneaky
yeah,
good.
right? Because one of the best things about this unit is its raw damage, right? You have a unit with 3 range attacks. You have a unit with Destructor. So it has a heavy flamer, it has a
Yep.
singing spear, and it has a twin shuriken catapult, right? Like you have a unit with 3 ranged weapons, like a model,
Yep.
which is powerful, especially when you combine it with like what you just said with, lethal hits, potentially doom from Eldrad, right? Like
Yep.
these units are just forcing so many saves on your opponent that they're not going to be able to pass them all.
Right. And what's so cool is like we can kind of deploy however we want to because we're so fast.
Hmm.
We could kind of disguise our deployments a little bit.
Yeah.
I've done that so many times with like heavy jet bike lists. Like you can spread out super far hard on the board and then just turn one converge to one side, shoot something to death,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely. Yeah. They move 14 inches. They're super fast, you know. Um, on top of that, they have really pretty good threat range, right? Like the range of their weapons itself, it doesn't seem like it's that long, but 14 plus 12 is 26. They have a 26-inch threat range, right?
Right,
Like that's pretty
right.
good.
And kind of along with the terms of the guides, all these guides,
Hmm.
our Windriders are just slapping shrieking cannons with sustain hits one.
Hmm.
So not only are we auto wounding with lethal hits, we're also exploding our hits.
Right, with the
And
Windriders.
it starts making it a little crazy, especially when you're shooting 18 shrieking cannons.
Right. So basically, I think what we're getting at is the goal of this list isn't really to necessarily play a bunch of objectives. It's to wipe the opponent off the board,
Right, piece
right?
by piece. I think
Absolutely. Just
do it if you do it just right, you could probably like score points. Maybe not as normal, but you can
hmm.
still score points.
Yeah, you'd have a few units that can do it, right? Like you have your potentially you could have Warlock Skyrunners that you're assigning to Guardian Jetbike units. Or not Guardian
Right.
Jetbikes, I'm thinking way back in the past here. Windriders, right? You could have Windriders just separate from their Warlocks pregame. You don't have to put them in the
Yeah,
unit, and your Warlocks can
absolutely.
score.
You can go very wide if you needed to. You can do the same thing with your Farseers.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I mean, if you're on one side of the board, you're gonna kill whatever's there, take whatever objective that was there. So that's your
Hmm.
objective. We can probably assume you have one more somewhere else.
Right.
So that's two. So you're still scoring points. It's not maybe ideal,
Hmm.
but you're also denying points from opponent.
Right. And I
And
think
in
the
doing so,
other,
and kind of
uh-huh.
going killy, like that kind of fulfills a lot of different secondary things. Like I don't think secondaries will be much of an issue with all the
Right.
speed as well.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of secondaries that just have you kill enemy units, right?
Right,
Like they just
let's
want you to
go.
kill units on
Right,
objectives, which is great because you have a bunch of units that can do that, and then you could always fire and fade something onto that objective and score it, right? Like you could easily do something like cleanse, you could easily do something like extend, battle lines, right?
right.
Like those are all very possible, and you also have possibility of scoring other things like, capture enemy stronghold or
Another
outpost or whatever it is, right?
right. Another kind of like fringe theory of mine with this list is it's kind of heavier on the side of denying opponent a cover save,
Hmm.
which is huge. I think, especially with our AP1 shrieking cannons.
Oh, absolutely. You need
And our
that ignores
destructors,
cover.
So
Yeah.
that little extra combo piece between the Viper and just the jet bikes having it built in with
Hmm.
the Warlocks, like you're throwing out a lot of you don't get a cover bonus. Like
Right.
enjoy this
And I think
2 damage to
any
death.
list that can just pick a unit and say I delete that unit is pretty good, right?
Right.
Like picking a unit of custodies on an objective and just deleting that unit off the board. That's powerful,
Yep. Next. Right.
you know? Like and I get it. You do need a lot of combo pieces. Like a lot of players are going to look at something like that and be like, "Yeah, but you're spending 1,000 points to kill one unit of custodies." Well, yeah, I am, but that unit's dead, and I'm
Yep.
still
Next thing
alive.
that's right. That's less things you have to shoot at me or deal
Yeah,
with me.
yeah, exactly. And like, if they shoot me back, my guys are protected. They all have fortune. They all have a 4+ invul save. They have a 3+ armor save, and they could benefit from cover.
Well,
You know?
this list also runs Eldrad, so we have Doom. So that's kind of like the last combo
Yeah,
piece.
yeah. +1 to wound.
And
Yeah, so
right,
those high toughness custodies that you're normally wounding on fives, it's like, no, I'm wounding them on fours. Like I'm wounding them, and then I get lethal hits on top of that, right? So I'm like auto wounding a lot of
and we
them.
get those sweet, sweet fate dice.
Absolutely, dude. Then you have the fate dice on top of it. You have the Farseers with their, Eldritch Storm. You just have
Oh,
a bunch of attacks. Like it's deceptive.
you know, so
You
how
know.
about Eldritch Storm with lethal hits? Is
Oh,
nutty,
big time, dude. Especially against big units, you're getting the blast bonus, getting additional
right? Like
attacks.
what?
Like, dude, it's funny because this
Guided,
list,
guided,
like,
guided,
oh, dude,
guided.
it's insane. You could destroy pretty much anything. You could pick up 2 guard units a turn with this
Right?
list.
It's so crazy.
It's absolutely
Um,
nuts. I
but
love the
that
idea of
yeah,
it.
right. And the whole general like I guess strategy is roll the entire army into one big death ball and
Just a
just
death ball
bounce
of
it around the
warlocks.
board. Like, what are you gonna shoot at? Pick a unit. Don't
Yeah, you
care.
know what though? I really like that because here's the thing about that strategy, right? Like your opponent like can have like a bunch of models like in his army, but he's probably not going to be able to deploy them all on one side of the board and fit because the
I,
footprint of their army is going to be much bigger than yours. Actually, warlocks and windriders have a very small footprint.
yeah. Oh my God. The entirety of the conclaves just alone. So you're looking at 9 warlocks and 3 farseers.
Hmm.
That's 720 points that can, just go so small.
Yeah.
But there's so much hate that comes out of it.
Oh, big time. Big time. Like, and here's the other thing, right? Now, people in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe this is how it works. When a skimmer type unit is on a flying base, you measure everything from the base and to the base, right? So like the Windrider itself hangs over, but because it's not a vehicle, it doesn't have a hull. So you measure to and from the base. Those Windrider bases and those Warlock Skyrunner
Right.
bases are tiny. They're tiny, man. You
What's
know?
kind of neat too with the conclaves, I mean, if you split them up a little bit just right, maybe you can
Hmm.
also get that plunging fire.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, if enemies are close up on you, you could jump up there, get some plunging fire against them real quick, you know? You could do
Right,
that with the
extra AP if
Windriders
something that
too.
doesn't have a cover save,
Yeah, dude.
but also like
Definitely.
AP1, AP1 on the singing spear is gross.
I didn't even think of that, but that's true. Strength
Yeah,
9,
it's
AP minus
gross.
1, damage 3. It's exactly like an autocannon, man. It's an autocannon.
Right. But if you're throwing at something doomed, or also your spears have lethal hits, like
Hmm.
what? Your same spears are just wounding on. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Okay.
insane, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. Like, you're throwing, if you figure you have 3 Farseers and 9 Warlock Skyrunners in their conclaves, you're throwing 12 spears, 12 singing
Right.
spears, damage
Right.
3 apiece.
Yeah. That's gross.
Like, anything with a 3 up, like, anything with not that great of an armor save is going to die, you know?
Right.
Like very easily. You know what's funny about that is like I think of Dark Eldar and how bad this would be for them. You just run up on them, throw 4 singing spears into a venom or something like that, and just
Yeah. Pop
like
that.
and just pop it. Yeah. So yeah, man. Like I think the army is like really strong, dude. Like I think if you're able to just pick up a unit at will, that says a lot. That goes a long way. And it's
Right.
basically
And
any unit in the game, right? Like
all,
it's force concentration to the max.
all the conclaves with their powers combined can almost take out a knight without any help.
That's insane, dude.
Which, and there's so many combo pieces in here, and there's so much help. I guess their only help I'd say is the guide, but that's
Yeah.
self help.
So you got guide, you got doom, lethal hits, right? And then you just have the basic abilities of the warlocks being able to, use their destructors, singing spears, shuriken catapults all
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
And the other thing is like shuriken catapults are twin linked,
Yep,
right? So like they're
yep.
rerolling wounds too. Like
Yeah. Yeah, your catapult shots are doing pretty well for them.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so I've never really. I think the Skyweavers are so good here. Really, like that's like the heavy punch with this list
So
needed.
like Skyweavers are pretty good too because they have the haywire. So if you need to
Exactly.
take anything out that's like really just too tough for the warlocks, you have something that can
Give that
respond,
a little
right?
punch. Yeah, a little extra punch.
Yeah,
Or
let's look
you
at
you
those
know
real quick.
you shoot that punch first. You know.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, because I mean, if you look at the Skyweavers, they have a good profile, right? Their profile for their haywire cannon, it's hitting on a 3+, it's 2 attacks apiece. You're getting 4 attacks with a reroll. And again, you could always
Yeah.
guide them, of course,
Well,
because,
if you, yeah,
just
if
to
you
make
if you
sure they
really
hit,
needed to get it in, yeah,
right? Just to make sure you don't whiff on it. Anti-vehicle 4+, devastating wounds. So, if you get
you
four
just get
attacks to hit, which you probably should on average
you probably get
dice.
2 in,
Yeah, 2, which
with
is
the
6
rerolls,
damage
and
with
yep.
a reroll. So it's 6 to, 9 damage. That's really good.
Even if you just get 3 out of it, it's not really terrible.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's 3 damage guaranteed.
on something big,
Yeah.
you know.
Like unless they have feel no pain, which most vehicles don't, except Black Templars. Damn you,
Like,
Black Templar.
yeah,
But, it's funny how many
because
people are playing Black Templar, Like what I've always noticed about Space Marines is like the popular in faction for Space Marines is always the faction that has feel no pain. Have you noticed that?
right,
Like last time it was what was it, Iron Hands that had it? Like you got
always feel no
you
pain.
got feel no pain, like you're competitive. Like you make Space Marines tougher, you're gonna be more competitive. That's just what it is.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean
But yeah, I think
Skyweavers don't care.
yep, they
They
just get that damage in.
Yep, and the only thing that's going to stop it is feel no pain, and you're not going to pass that many feel no pains.
Like
So
this
they're
sort of
really
list
good.
too, I think it's probably more wise to shoot all your heavier stuff first,
Yeah, and then
because you don't know
finish
how
it
the pepper
off.
spray is gonna,
Finish it
kind
off
of
with a
end up.
Skyweaver. Yeah, because you figure like against a tough target, maybe your warlocks, maybe your opponent gets lucky on their saves, and uses a stratagem, a defensive stratagem or something, and survives on like 3 or 4 wounds. Well, you have Skyweavers, to go up, hit them with devastating wounds, and then hit them also with the Star Bolas. Because the Star Bolas aren't bad either, especially under the effects of Doom, right?
Another thing too, I think is kind of sneaky is like they're on the bigger base. So
Yeah.
between the Shroud Runners, the Skyweavers, and the Viper, I kind of plug holes with that stuff if I need to.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's why I love I was always not a fan of the big bases, like when the Shroud Runners came out and everything, and the Shining Spears in Ninth Edition. I really didn't like the big bases too much because they're a little bit
I
hard
hate
to
it for the
maneuver.
spears.
In this
Yeah.
edition, it's really awkward as well. But because the base is what you measure to and from by, that's what's
Hmm.
blocking enemy units from moving over and through, right? So
Yep.
like that big base actually comes in handy for cheap, kind of screening units like Skyweavers, or at least they could be, or Shroud Runners, which is honestly 3 Shroud Runners can take up so much space on the board. Just
Yeah.
block a
Yeah.
lot of space from enemies. Like I can't tell
Yep.
you how many
Deal with it.
times turn one scout move with the Shroud Runners, move their normal distance, and then fire and fade right in front of a Land Raider or something like that. Just totally block my opponent from being able to move it. You
Yeah,
know,
and they got the 3 wounds too.
I mean, they're probably dead,
5 up involved against ranged.
but it's gonna take your opponent a little bit more to like kill them than they maybe think. Like the Land Raider alone probably can't take them out. If it's a
Nope.
last cannon Land Raider, which I mean, I know that some people run the Crusader and stuff like that because that's the Crusader's really good as well. But your last cannon Land Raider is pretty much a staple, and like they have a 5+ invul against that, and they have -1 to hit.
Right.
So I mean, they could survive that. You know, they definitely on average dice survive the last cannons from the Land Raider. I know the heavy bolters can be a little iffy, especially if they, use Oath of Moment on the Shroud Runners to try to get rid of them. But
Yeah.
even so, like, okay, that's
They're hard
great.
to hit too.
Like, I
Hopefully get
accept,
better and better.
yeah,
But
they're going to
yeah,
have to
yeah.
use another unit.
But the whole goal is like it's a whole death ball. Like shoot it. Shoot, pick what you want to shoot at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like are you gonna kill the whole unit off? I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly. Roll those dice, man.
All
Let's
this
see how
shit
you
over here
do.
is gonna kill your shit though.
Yeah, exactly. And then, it's funny because they're so eager. I noticed that players who get move blocked like that early, they're so eager to just rush their models out as soon as possible because they don't want to do it again. They don't want to get move blocked again, and then they run right out into the open, and you're just waiting for them. Like, hello,
Oh,
you know?
my favorite part too about the conclaves too is best believe I'm gonna melee you with all of them.
Yeah, their melee's not
They're gonna get it
terrible,
in. No, it
right?
is, but they're gonna get it in.
Well, I mean, yeah,
They're
it's
guided.
terrible. Let's be real,
Said
but
that.
it's guided, right? So
And
they're
it's
hitting
still
on
three
3+ of the
damage.
reroll.
Still 3 damage.
Yeah, that's kind of how you have to think of it. It's like a finishing off, because they're not
They're
gonna
super
they're
fists.
not gonna do any real damage. Let's be real,
Super fists.
you
No,
know.
yeah, but I mean, when you're sending another was it 2 attacks apiece, so
Yeah, I mean,
24 melee attacks at 3 damage
oh yeah,
apiece, even if it's, not ideal
it's not bad. I
circumstances.
mean, even one unit, right? You could use it to tie up something big for a couple turns because they do have a 4+ invul. They do have -1 to wound,
Oh
which,
yeah.
I mean, they're toughness 4, so you need strength 8 to wound them on 2s. So basically anything strength 7, strength 6, strength 5 is wounding them on, a 4+, which is
Yeah,
great, right?
gnarly. Yeah.
That's great. And you have 3 wounds apiece. So unless they're dealing flat 3 damage, like you're not losing a warlock for every failed save.
I think this is super neat. We put all the enhancements on the Farseers.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and
So
take a look at the list. So I have the list right here, right? So there's a 2,000 point list. We do have the Warlock Skyrunner for a bit of trollery, right? Just throw them in reserve, have them farm some command points from reserve because they never fix that. So we're gonna abuse that while we can.
yeah, and
Right.
he could be a spicy little objective capture
Yeah,
man,
like late in the game, he can come out, capture an objective,
or
do
just tie up a unit
yeah,
and be a
absolutely.
weirdo.
Investigate some signals.
Yeah,
He can
hard.
investigate the signal, I don't know why he's doing that, but
Well,
whatever,
that's his job.
you know.
That's gonna be his
He
job.
got some sort of signal from somebody. Maybe Jane Zars, told him to meet her somewhere. I don't know.
Also running the 3 Farseers, we have branching fates all over the place. It's
Oh,
gross.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's another like good
All
point,
my
right?
fate action fixes.
Yeah, and especially if you have stuff like Skyweavers, right? We kind of just like touched on that. Like that's a free 3,
Yep.
devastating
Oop.
wound damage, you know?
There you go. Yeah.
You have Eldrad in this list, you have extra fate dice,
Yeah. 9/6s, baby. Let's go.
right? You got Fate's Messenger on the Farseer Skyrunner. And I mean
Yeah.
arguably, I mean like
It's
you might as well, right?
defense, at the end of the day.
Sure. Or I mean, you could even
And it's
put
no
on the
point
Autarch
damage.
Skyrunner if you wanted. I mean, you could do whatever with it, right?
For sure. For sure.
Phoenix Gem on the Farseer. And again, you could either do that, or
Yeah.
you could put Phoenix
Another
Gem
defense
on the
fun.
Autarch Skyrunner. Just really depends how you want to play it. And you have Weeping
I,
Stones
I
on one of the Farseers.
my whole thing with the Autark is like if he's not gonna be on the board for the most
Might as well
part.
not even do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's just a little 90 point.
He's going to die anyway. Just send him in to
Yeah,
die.
he's doing his thing.
Yeah. Warlock Skyrunners, you got
Yeah,
those to
yeah.
join the singletons. You got those to join the Windriders. Or they could just be by themselves. Now, here's the question, though. Do you give these
Weeping
guys the
Stones
Singing
too. Get more
Spears?
fate points.
See, I would actually give the Weeping Stones to one of the Warlock Skyrunners. That's just
You
me.
think so? Yeah,
Yeah,
true,
because they do more
true.
damage, actually, against... You know what I mean? They do more damage, and your Windriders are going to be
Yeah, but
mostly going out there and pushing.
like we're running all these conclaves together.
Hmm.
That third conclave could be the finishing unit.
It could,
Yeah,
right? Definitely could be. Yeah.
that's
Just depends. I guess it's just
but
a
but
preference
yeah,
thing
I
at that
do like
point.
both. I do like
Yeah.
what you're saying.
You'd probably have to playtest that to see what unit actually does get more kills, like finishings. Either the
Yeah.
huge unit of Skyrunner, Windriders.
Every time I play a 9 pack of Windriders, though, they always have a huge target on their head, and they get picked up rather easily if you're not careful.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do,
So
because there's a lot of damage to weapons out there,
right,
So you do have to hide them, but they're a great
but
fire and fade target.
when there's 40 jet bikes on this corner of the board, like whatever, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I mean, the whole goal of this list is just to kill as much as possible, like early on, like force your opponent to engage with you early with things like Shroud Runners, Skyweavers, stuff like that. Get good positions set up on your opponent, and then when your opponent starts to come out
It's
and try to capture
it's
objectives, you just
There's
annihilate them.
so much sneaky lethality in it too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah, because your
it doesn't
opponent
look like a
your
lot,
opponent
but
doesn't actually think it's that lethal. Like you tell them the stats of the weapons, they're like, "Oh, okay, nothing seems that scary." Right? Like you got a heavy flamer on your warlocks, right? So it's like, okay,
it can get so large too. Like you could probably cover half the board with the list.
you could, all spread out.
Yeah,
So
like which is nuts.
what's funny about that is like that's true. That's like a great screening tactic for like turn one. Like just spread everything like totally out there, you know?
Yeah, I honestly, so depending on the matchup, I'll deploy that way. I'll deploy everything in the open, which
Hmm.
sounds crazy, but if opponent doesn't have that many things out there or that much shooting, like
Well, here's the thing also,
pick your
right?
targets. Pick your targets. You're gonna kill something, maybe. Sure, go ahead.
You have a scout move on these models, right?
And
Like,
it'll pull your stuff out. It pulls
yeah,
opponent stuff out, and they have to make decisions.
yeah.
It forces them to make decisions.
Oh, big time. I mean, and the thing is, you have scout moves, right? Like you have the ability to bait your opponent into setting things out in the open if you wanted to with that scout
Take
move.
that.
You can just
Yep.
move
Yep.
right back into terrain or move up the board behind obscuring terrain. You got your
Oh,
Skyweavers, you got
Proxy.
Invite
Oh,
School. Yeah.
the sniper rifles with all these little combos got to be nasty, right?
On the Shroud Runners?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're good if you can get them into position. I find that, especially later on in the edition, in the beginning of the edition when everyone was kind of still learning stuff, like, people would just like kind of put their characters out there because they'd be in units, so they'd have that like false sense of security, you know?
Yeah, but even shooting your 6 sniper shots with your lethal hits or your doom
Yeah.
or you know what I
You
mean,
can
X, Y, and
definitely
Z.
kill characters, like lesser
But it's just
characters
two
with it.
damage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
It's two
I mean,
damage too. You just shoot at the tank as well.
oh, big time. Like, if you wanted to move, like, okay, so, like, if your opponent wanted to set up on you early and, like, put a unit of, Canoptic Wraiths in the center of the board, you could very
Hmm.
easily move your Shroud Runners into position, lethal hits, take out the Cryptek, and then the rest of your Windriders can move in and just annihilate them. Just
Yep.
blow them off the board, dude. Like, they have no chance. You're ignoring cover, you're pushing them to their invul save. They just lost their ability to, get feel no pain because the Cryptek's dead. They're done. Like, you
I
have
will say one
guide.
of my favorite things ever too is literally just fire and fade the 9 pack of Wind
Oh,
Riders
big
though.
time. You always
It's
have to do that.
gross.
You always have to
It's
do
so
that with at least one
nasty.
unit of them, right? Like, you have to fire and fade with it. It's
Yeah, every
too
turn
valuable.
probably.
Yeah, big time. Big time. I would do the same thing. And that's why you have the Autarch Skyrunner in reserve, just so you can have that extra CP, of course, right?
I thought about also just attaching him to one of the Wind Rider squads.
You could, because then you get an auto advance of 6, right?
Right, which could be
So,
spicy.
like, I mean, realistically,
It,
though,
just a toolbox
yeah, I
thing.
mean, you could use the unit to score an objective if you needed to. He does have a Shuriken Catapult, which does mean if he's attached to the unit, you do get Assault, which means you could advance and score on objectives, so that's still viable. You can still do that, even though the rest of the unit has Shuriken Cannons. So that's cool,
Yep,
right? So you could do
yep.
that. They're not going to be able to
Um,
shoot, but they
it
weren't
adds a
anyway if you're
little.
using them for
It
objectives.
adds another melee element to the list on the board the first couple turns.
Hmm.
Um, and they got to chew through 18 wounds of Wind Riders before he gets touched.
Right.
So that was kind of my justification of maybe thinking about doing that too.
And yeah,
But
and
coming out of Strat Reserve is also very good.
oh, big time. And that's the thing about this list too, right? Like, one of the big reasons I like this list is it's flexible, right? Like, you can change your game plan accordingly. And I think I like that about pretty much almost every Eldar list, aside from Iyanden Wraithguard lists, Wraith-based lists, is that because your army's fast, you can change your game plan like this, like on a whim,
Yep,
right? Snap of a finger. Your game plan
yep.
is going to just, basically be able to adapt to whatever your opponent's doing, which is an awesome ability to have. Like, that's why I love playing armies with a lot of speed. Like, I've never been a huge
Oh,
fan of just,
same. I've always been a
slow,
Death Knight.
ponderous armies. Like, I hate Death Guard, dude. Like, I know a lot of people love their, stinky, like, Plague Marines, but man, I've always disliked them. They're so boring to me. And it's always the same list. Have you noticed that? Like, by the way, no offense to any Death Guard players out there, but man, your lists, everybody's list is exactly the same. Like, it's like literally the same, man. It's like three plague burst crawlers and like, plague marines and like typhus and mortarion and nurglings, right? And like maybe you have like bloat drones or something like that. Like maybe you
Hold
have
on.
something else.
You
But
gotta think though,
it's
Proxy, we're also spoiled.
yeah. I know they don't have as many data sheets. I get it.
Yeah, we're spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's because we're the superior species, right? We're the superior Eldar,
Also
so we're
that.
of course gonna get more stuff. You know, I mean, they're a
Yeah, that's
disease-ridden
obvious.
faction, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man, Death Guard. I don't know. I've just never liked playing against them. They're boring to me. They're actually an easy matchup for Eldar for the most part, I think. I know a lot of players think it's a super hard matchup because of the indirect fire, but those plague burst crawlers are really expensive, and if they're relying on indirect fire the whole game, they're just not going to be able to kill enough, you know?
Right.
Also, we have so much fast stuff that can get behind and kill them, you know? Like
Right.
they're really not that tough. I know they seem tough, but if they're in within line of sight, like you should have enough firepower in your army to kill one.
That's what's cool about this list too. Like opponent's anti-tank doesn't feel like it means that much
Oh, it
to me.
doesn't really mean anything. I mean, the Plague Burst crawlers could be dangerous against Windriders, but then again, you could always put those in reserve if you wanted to, right? You could
True.
reserve a unit of those. You also get the
Yeah,
opportunity to
reserve
get
one and the other
stealth.
one were fire and fading and doing that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah, true. Very true, you know?
Yeah, also stealth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much that matters against the Plague Burst, but it does matter against
True.
other stuff in
Yeah,
the army, right?
for
Like,
sure.
there is stuff it does matter against, like irregular bolters and stuff like that. Won't be able to, like, really get them as good. And the other thing is
Y-
you have the maneuverability to get out of that plague range, right? I don't know. I think Eldar versus into Death Guard is a pretty good thing if you have the right units and you play the objectives really well. I think you're golden, you know? Especially if
Yeah.
you move block their stuff. Like it's really hard. Like their only mobility is rhinos. If you can block off the rhinos, kill their mobility, like what do they have? They only have the objectives that they've already secured and that's it. They can't go after others without taking some severe firepower. And that's why you have Windriders, man. Like as soon as
Right.
you blow up
Right.
those rhinos, you just come in with Windriders. Like they're not going to have the screening potential for you. They're done.
I think
You
that's what
know?
the list is so cool because like certain matchups too, like you just devastate.
Yeah.
Like orcs.
Oh, orcs against this
Orcs.
list is
I
insane,
imagine like
dude.
a Tyranid kind of horde or guard horde.
I think any horde list against this would just get annihilated, dude. Like I don't
Yeah.
think guard have a chance in hell because you have to also think like their footprint is massive, so that's a huge disadvantage when you can do force of concentrate. You can do force concentration on them and just load up a flank, and there's nothing they can do about it. Like they can try
Right.
to load up that flank, but they're just gonna lose every single one of those units. You know, like just a single unit of warlocks with a farseer is pretty much devastating at least more than half of the enemy unit. You know, it's
Oh, so
crazy,
many
dude.
dice when they're all together. So many dice.
Oh, it's so
Another.
big, dude. It's so
They
big. It's
also
massive.
they also have that spicy 4-up feel no pain against psychic attacks,
Yeah, which is
which
really
is
powerful.
wild.
It's powerful against the right opponents. It's good,
Exactly. Yeah.
but
It's just another like
it's
weird
like, you know what it's good against, man,
weird
is
matchup
Thousand
tool
Suns,
thing.
dude. It's really good
Right.
against Thousand Suns. Like Thousand Suns are on the rise, and like that's one of the harder matchups for Eldar. And I think this list just really
It just
kind of
creeps it out.
memes on him, like dunks on him. Like it's a meme, but it's like one of those like situations where it's like, oh no, I don't have an answer to this. Everything has a 4+ mortal. It's basically like having it's basically like going against Custodes, right?
Right.
Which is funny. Cuz like there's so many psychic weapons in their arsenal that it's like pretty insane.
Yeah. So yeah, I other units I've considered for this list. One of them, believe it or not, is actually Death Jester.
That's You know what? I actually see that because you do need something with loan up, I think. So that would be good.
Right, and give him the fate
What would you
manager,
get
let
rid
him
of?
do his thing.
Would you get rid of a Farseer? Would you get rid of a unit of
That's tough because I don't think
Skyweavers?
I think I'd rather add dev wounds as
Uh-huh.
opposed to take away.
Right. So like you would maybe because it's 105 points for a jester. This list is at what is it at 2,000 right now? It's
I was
exactly
considering
2,000,
maybe
I think, right?
I've been considering sacking Eldrad because
Hmm.
there's a bunch of other combos,
Right.
but I feel like Doom's just if we get
Maybe
Doom off twice, that's a good day.
I think this is really what it is, right? Like if you're playing this is a playtesting question, right? Like if you're
Right.
using Eldrad and you feel that you're overkilling
Overkill.
units,
Right.
like okay, time to drop Eldrad because he's obviously not needed against a vast majority of enemies.
Yeah, we just do more kill stuff.
Right. So you just need something that can, kind of give you some variation. right? Like the Death Jester gives you a lot more than just damage. It gives you
Yeah.
bone op, it gives you objectives, actually
But
gives
he's
you
still
something
out
that
there just
can.
slapping in some dev wounds too here
Yep.
and there.
Yeah, and the Jester is actually
Which
better than
which
Eldrad
which
at killing
fits
characters.
which kind of fits the theme too of like every unit can kind of shoot at anything,
Right,
you know.
right. It doesn't matter what you have, I'm going to kill it, you know?
Right.
Like, Death Jester
Um,
can easily do, 4 mortal wounds a turn,
I
you
thought
know?
about adding one of my favorite sort of units is just Baharath and a 10-pack of Swooping Hawks.
Interesting.
Um, they have leaflets on their own, which is cool. They're an amazing guide target, and they do Swooping Hawk things for sure.
Yeah,
And they're fast enough to keep up with the list,
right. Because of
if
all
not
their
faster than
bonuses.
the list.
Yeah,
Like,
I think Baharoth and 10 Swooping Hawks is kind of cool. I just, what I can't wrap my
the
head around
problem
with
is the
that unit
points.
is the points, man. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
expensive, dude. Like,
I'm already crippled from the conclave,
yeah,
so
you'd have to drop literally probably a Conclave and a Farseer to make that work,
right.
you know? Actually, that's
Um,
exactly what you'd have to drop. I think it's exactly the amount of points, too.
one thing I
Well,
consider
no, it's a
too
little more
is
expensive, isn't it? Because Baharoth is what,
I
120?
consider I considered going down to 2 conclaves,
Uh-huh.
but go to a third solo Skyrunner, and then an extra Windrider pack, maybe split one off to like a 6-3 scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still running the 9 Warlocks, but I mean this list has 11, which I love. I kind of that's
Yeah.
my thing. That's my favorite model, and
Yeah.
if it wasn't obvious in our
No, it's
codex,
really cool, and it's a cool concept too because I think you keep the Warlock Conclaves. Honestly, I think they're
yeah,
what make this list what it is. This is the
yeah,
core
for
of the
sure,
list.
for sure.
I think if we went more Windriders, we'd have to kind of tailor more towards that because there's other things you can do with that, right? Like if we didn't want the Warlock Skyrunners, if we wanted just more Windriders, we'd probably have to go a different direction with it,
Yeah,
right? Because we could
I,
just put the Farseers in the Windrider units at that point. We could do something else.
I also think maybe it's a unpopular opinion, but I think just who needs an autarch?
Yeah.
You know, there's that too, potentially. You know,
Right. I mean, depending on, I just think it's nice in this list because you got two big Windrider units that will probably want Fire and Fade, and then you want probably something to have lightning fast reactions every turn or Overwatch, right?
right?
Like, I mean, think about Overwatch with flamers and like all the ranged weapons. I mean, yeah, probably won't get that many sixes, but you're re-rolling your hits because of guide, perma guide, basically, right?
Yep.
Like,
I one other thing I've thought about in the list, maybe one of, maybe two of,
mhm.
is some Shadow Weavers
Yeah, that could work. The
just to be
only
that
problem with
guy.
those, the only problem with those that I see is that they're really slow and they're going to be left behind really quick.
No, yeah, they're gonna be left behind, but they have the range,
Yeah.
right? So they cover a good chunk of the board.
Yeah.
And their only goal is to whatever's close
-1
to
to
my
hit.
death ball,
Right.
yep,
Yeah.
or whatever my opponent's best shooting stuff is.
Well, that's why you have lightning fast. But yeah, but true. You're right. Um, that does make sense.
So like one of I think two would be sick, but
Oh,
one of
you
would
know
be
what
okay.
though? You know what though? Think about this. Instead of the Shadow Weavers, just put D cannons and put them in reserve. Because
So
because check
I've
this out.
always thought about some like yeah, I know
You,
you could do some silly things with
yeah, you could
decans
do
coming out of
split fire
reserves.
too. Like they have a shuriken catapult. A lot of people miss this, but like D cannons, support weapons, they have a shuriken catapult, which is affected by the ability. So the D
Oh,
cannon wants to shoot at vehicles, and the ability doesn't affect vehicles, but the shuriken catapult does. So you can tag another unit with it and say, "Oh, I shot this with the shuriken catapult. It is going to be a -1 to hit now." Little
so you could
mini shuriken catapult, just
oh,
just
so you could do that with two. You could hit 2 units
well, you can
with
only
one.
choose one. You can only choose one to be affected, but you can hit
Oh,
two
but the
units and
catapult,
choose. Yeah, but I mean, the D cannon's going to go after hard stuff anyway. It's going to go after
right?
your monoliths or your
Right.
rhinos or
That is
whatever.
very cheeky.
Yeah. So like that's why you throw them in reserve, and from turn 2 onward you're debuffing something. Now they'll probably die. Like if I was going up against that, I'd probably target those first as soon as they came out. Like my next turn would be, okay, I need to kill the D cannons, because if they survive, it's like over. But that's even better for you because you have now 2 D cannons out there that are taking all the hits, and
Right.
your
Yeah.
other stuff can roam free.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that's just terrifying, anyways. Like,
Yeah.
oh, opponent has some D cannons in
Yep.
reserve. Like, why?
Like, how do I deal with that? Like, how do I maneuver my forces,
While the rest of his force is just like down
eliminating
my
unit after
throat.
unit?
Like,
Yeah, I think it's like really. I mean, honestly, man, I think it's really powerful. I don't think a lot of armies could deal with it. I mean, and here's the thing about it too is like, an Eldar player will look at this list, and on
that'd be
paper,
the hammer. That'd
it
be the
looks
hammer.
like a complete meme, dude. Like, it looks like a
No, you're
meme,
right. I know. I
but
know.
it does so much concentrated damage. Like, if you do the math on this real quick, like,
No, you.
it's
I
insane,
sit down
dude.
and roll the dice. It's nuts. Yeah, like
Yeah, it actually does work, like with the
the
combo.
conclaves alone. So the conclaves alone, you have 3 Eldritch Storms,
Hmm.
which is they're all what D6 blast.
Yep.
Gross.
I mean,
9
that's really good.
Destructors,
Hmm.
24 catapult shots, 12 singing spear shots, and then you have your 24 melee attacks.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
that's pretty
so
insane, dude.
right. You 9, 10, 12 d6 shots of the storm and destructors,
God, dude. That's insane, man. That's
and
absolutely insane.
you got like even just the self guide everything. Your catapults reroll wound rolls. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of
That's some
dice.
nuts stuff, dude. Like, that's just so many attacks. Like, I don't think people really realize how
And
many
then,
attacks that ends up being.
like on paper it doesn't look that wild, but like once it starts getting the combos in
Yeah.
there,
Well,
once you
you're
start getting
you're
the combos in there, like it just amplifies it to
well, think about it. You're
crazy.
basically
Like
running them as a giant seer council. Like, remember the old
right,
like
right,
jet bike seer
yeah.
council? Like, you're basically running them as that.
That's why I have
They
all these bad boys.
Yeah, they have fortune, they have the tough, the durability, like, so it's basically
Huge
like
spikes,
running that, dude. It's like running like one giant
right?
unit. And if you just think about it like that, it's like, yeah, that's a Death Star. But it has the advantage of being a Death Star while also being separate units, so you could do different things with them.
Yeah, you could hide them. Hide them
Yeah.
a little better if you need to.
Yep. Like, I think a lot of armies out there, like if they had the option to take a 450 point unit, like 9 of something, like with 3 wounds apiece, a 4 up invul, toughness 4, and 3 ranged weapons apiece, I think they would take it. Like, most armies out there would be like, yeah, I'll take a unit like that, and they're
With
fast, like, sign me up, right?
this death ball too, like if, say we don't kill like a unit, but we still have some Overwatch we could do.
Yeah.
Everything's guided,
I mean,
kind
yeah, the
of like
Overwatch is decent too, right? You got 3
like a
destructors that
lot of
are
good
auto
targets,
hitting.
yeah, a lot of good Overwatch targets.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, it does have 12 range, but at the same time, if you're running them very aggressive and you're blocking off different avenues of,
If you have
kind of
a fresh
escape, they
nine
can't.
pack, of Cannon Bikes Overwatching is
Oh, that's strong
nasty
too.
guided. Yeah.
That's strong as well. I'm actually curious because I want to know, because I actually forgot. Let me check something real quick because I believe Windriders have some. Okay, so check this out, right? Like, if you read the ability Swift Demise, each time a model in this unit makes a range attack that targets the closest eligible target, reroll a hit roll of 1. If the target of the attack is within range of an objective marker your opponent controls, you can reroll a hit roll instead. So that doesn't say shooting phase.
This says range attack,
That's
yeah.
just range attack. So you could do that as Overwatch, man. Like, and like you're fishing for sixes anyway, so you're getting all those like sustained
Exactly.
hits, man. So like,
Yep.
what is 9?
Yep.
Let's do the some quick Eldar math. 9
But
times 3 is
you're right.
27. You're getting how many lethal or no, how many sustained attacks on the first volley? Like, you're getting about what? About
We'll say
5,
4.
4,
Yeah.
5, yeah. So, and then on the second volley, you're getting roughly the same
We'll
amount
say
when you,
3. Yeah.
yeah, like
8.
that
Yeah.
doubles.
7, 8.
So you're getting 16 hits, dude, because of sustained hits 1.
Right.
Dude, that's insane. Like,
Yeah.
16
Right.
hits, and then you reroll, like, then you roll to wound and you reroll one of those. Like that's pretty
I
good
had
damn
I ran
Overwatch.
I ran a 9 pack of them at a GT I went to last year,
Uh-huh.
and they randomly spiked on Overwatch. They were
Hmm.
fresh 9 pack. I Overwatched with them. They were guided, and like out of nowhere, like on my over Overwatch, I had like I think it was like 12 sixes. Like it was nuts, and they
That's
just absolutely nuked the unit.
that's
The
absolutely
next
crazy.
Right, it was absolutely nuts. The next turn they got picked up off the table, but that's neither here nor there.
No fire and fade in the back pocket.
No. I also didn't think they were gonna get picked up off the table like that.
Yeah. I'm just curious what picked him off the table. Do you remember?
I believe it was I was playing against knights that
Oh,
game.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically anything they have
So
could pick them
one
up.
of those big knights just
Oh God, yeah.
demolished them.
Well, hopefully they made their points back shooting at the knight. Knights are
Yeah,
fun.
right.
Knights are funny, dude. I've played against Chaos Knights because we have a guy in our group who plays Chaos Knights, and like God, Knights are weird, man. Like
I've never
it's
lost against Chaos Knights.
it's so yeah,
Undefeated.
undefeated against Chaos Knights, dude.
Yeah,
Nice, dude. I cannot say the same because I tried playing a Harlequin list against Chaos Knights when, before the Overwatch changes and the towering changes and stuff. Dude,
no, Proxy,
it was just awful,
you know
dude.
how you beat knights? You kill all the big toys in the first 2 turns, and then they're sad. They don't want to play
In
the
the
game
first
anymore.
turn, he destroyed my Skyweavers. I had no haywire after turn one, man.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's all good. That was some. Well, I mean, really, I mean, in the beginning of the
But that's what
edition,
I would
the
try to do.
towering and Overwatch and stuff was just so broken. It was just insane,
Right,
dude. Like, there was nothing I could have done. It was just like, okay, roll 20 dice. Like, all right, 4 up invols. Let's see if I can make 15 of them to
right.
save a single bike. And it's like, no, you can't. Like, Sagorak spits on you. And like, the funniest thing about that though is like, as soon as that nerf hit, like, my buddy did not want to play me again.
Right.
He was like, nah, I'm good, man. He was like, yeah, like maybe run something like without Haywire. I don't know though, man. I'll reach out to him again and see if he wants to play another game. I guess Chaos Knights are doing a little better now,
That's
but
good.
I think they're just a really swinging army, and they're mostly just a
Yeah.
stat check for people. Like if you have a well built list that can deal a good amount of damage, like they're not a problem. But
Right.
if you're just if you don't have the anti large, then you're not gonna win. You know. And I've never
Um.
liked armies like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Another thing I considered for this list was just 3 5 packs of swooping hawks, just to
that's good.
be
Round out
little
your
monkeys
secondaries for
to
sure, dude.
do objectives or whatever. Yep. Warp spiders I think could be really cool in this list.
Yeah. You know what I will say though, and I'm not like saying this as like criticism because obviously I think warp spiders and swooping hawks are really good, but I think that as soon as you start doing that, the list loses its identity, right?
Exactly.
Like, so
Right.
I think you can't do that. I think like yeah, like I would
No,
love
right.
swooping
That's
hawks too,
right.
like if I
No,
could
I
just
know.
add them, but man, you really want to
Um,
just be able to like murder
it,
things with
it
this
so
list.
in that token from me, like maybe add another Viper.
Yeah.
I think a second Viper could be kind
Yeah,
of
that
good.
could be good. Because I mean, here's the thing, like you are gonna sometimes go up against players who have indirect fire who can kill a Viper in one turn, you know?
And we get another Bright Lance.
Right.
And Bright Lances are great when all your Fate dice are sixes.
Oh, that's true. Right? You have more to kind of spread around with the fate dice.
Yeah, like maybe I only got 2 Bright Lance shots a turn, but if they're pretty successful every time.
Exactly, dude. You know what I was actually thinking is Eldrad with fate dice. Like Eldrad uses a fate dice on himself, right?
Uh-huh.
And then uses Mind War on something and then uses Bladestorm.
Bladestorm?
Yeah, dude.
Mind War Bladestorm?
Yeah, Bladestorm Mind War, man. It's a range attack. Why not?
Do you need the third AP?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I
Ice
mean,
that
a 2 up
character.
to a 4 up.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because against Necrons, like a lot of their characters actually don't have a invul save. Like their crypt deck characters, like mysteriously don't have one. I don't know why, but hey,
Oh,
like I'm all for it. Like I'll take it.
so we're just gonna mind war it. Oh no, we can't lethal hit it because we want the
Yeah,
anti-character 4 up. Yeah.
exactly, dude. Yeah. So you can't lethal hit it, but you can hit on normal ballistic skill.
Well, actually, no, it doesn't matter. It's not it's not devastating wounds, so
It's not, but if you did Blade Storm, you wouldn't be able to really do that.
yeah, it's true for the Blade Storm. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you could. I mean, yeah, I guess you could lethal hit it if you didn't want to Blade Storm. You just be like, yep, it's lethal. Like goes right through. Like it just boop 6 die
Yeah,
fate.
make your
But
save.
but then you probably want to save the fate dice for the damage roll, right? Because you're hitting on 2+. It's Eldrad.
Yeah, well, not only is that man taking the Mind War, he's also taking 6 sniper rifle shots.
Yeah, true.
No,
Right.
I'm just,
Like whatever characters your
he's-
opponent has, like they're probably going to be in jeopardy. Like
which is neat. Yeah, that's neat
yeah,
having a little,
yeah, it's
just
cool.
having
I've
that flexibility.
You know what? I've actually liked using Eldrad to pop characters. Like I
It's
know
gotta be good
people.
against Necrons, right?
Yeah, it's good against Necrons. It's really good against Necrons. It's really good against
Yeah,
Guard. You see more Guard players
yeah,
emerging now
yeah.
that there's this weird, like thing about Guard, like where, they're OP all of a sudden. I don't think so, but like that's the buzz. Is that they're like
Right.
really strong. Well, yeah, they've won more, GTS and stuff like that for sure. But Eldrad's really good at popping characters. If he can get line of sight on, Lord Solar maybe, or something like that. Actually, I wonder if does Lord Solar have 6 wounds? I think he has 6. No,
Hmm.
because if
Yeah, I
he
want
has,
6/6
I want to
actually.
say like that's
Yeah,
a
I
fifty
want
percent
6/6.
chance of just popping him, right? Like just popping Lord Solar like with a Mind War, or like even just like Creed with 4 wounds, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
good chance you just pop her because I think her invul save is a 5+. So like,
Proxy,
yeah.
Proxy, you think I won't mind war a tank?
Well, I mean, technically, you could doom it, and
I
most
mean, it's a lethal,
vehicles that
lethal
are,
hit, baby.
yeah,
Lethal
oh,
hit.
lethal
Let's
hit.
go.
Well, I mean, hopefully you don't roll a 1 for damage, but you can Mind War a tank.
Uh, yeah.
You know what's tight about that though? You like Mind
Just
War the
said that.
tank. It's like
It's
you're
another
Mind
D6
Warring
damage, dude.
the. Oh yeah, dude, you got
Little
you got
pilot
that, man.
inside.
Yeah, you like mind. Yeah, exactly. You Mind War the driver of the vehicle. Like just, you know, man,
Hmm.
that's funny. I remember when Mind War used to like target. You used to be able to target special weapons and units. Oh, that was so much fun, man. Like I would set it up back in the day in like 4th edition to where like in 5th edition, like people would always like carry a melt bomb in their units of Marines just so they could like kill things like Wraith Lords in combat. So I'd be like, who has the melt bomb? They'd be like, oh, it's the sergeant. I'd be like, okay, I go for the sergeant. And they just ice the sergeant, like just kill the
Right.
sergeant right off the bat and just charge in with the Wraith Lord anyway. And my opponents were like, oh, that's so OP. That's so OP, man. It's just so fun using Mind War back then.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was so good, dude. You didn't even need like in certain editions, you didn't even need line of sight to the model you were shooting. You just needed line of sight to the unit. Like it was so good. But I think they changed that at some point, if I'm not mistaken, where you had to
Oh
like have
man,
line
that
of sight on it.
third Shroud Runner unit would be sick too.
Yeah, that'd
Do you
be
think
good.
it'd be better
That'd
to
be good.
like take out a Skyweaver, add a Shroud Runner, and just go one Sky? Nah,
Yeah, I think two
Skyweaver's
Shroud Runners
good.
is good. Like, because
Yeah.
if you think about it, every time you use lethal hits, you're probably gonna lose a Shroud Runner.
Right.
So I think 2 units is good. Like 3 units would be good, but you're kind of crunched on points. I think you do need the devastating wounds, you know. Only reason I say that is because there are things that just stack armor, like armor of contempt. You got armor of contempt
Right.
to worry about. You have, I mean, you're gonna be ignoring their cover, but with armor of contempt, they're basically getting cover, right? So
Right.
like that could be an issue. Having another unit of shroud runners, like it's whatever, but having devastating wounds against to finish off those armor of contempt
Yeah.
vehicles is like I
Right.
think key, dude. Like there's so many people just running like big tanks, big vehicles that could probably with armor of contempt survive like land raiders.
I can't wait to kill. I can't wait to shoot that stuff down with like just shrieking cannons and
Oh, dude,
just be like,
that's got to be so fun to do. Just be like, oh, I'm just firing shuriken catapults. And it's just like
yeah,
doing a bunch of lethal hits and just like rerolling wounds and like, yeah, dude, that's
being
insane.
obnoxious. Yeah,
That's
we're just
obnoxious, man. Well, also, I mean, Blade Storm, like I think you said this last time we talked, but Blade Storm
yeah,
is
blade
not
storm.
bad on a unit of Warlock Skyrunners because, at the end of the
Yeah,
day, you're not rerolling all your wounds, but your shuriken catapults are twin linked. They're rerolling their wounds. You could just fish for that extra
yeah.
AP.
So that's where Fate's Messenger on the Farseer comes in. It's just creepy.
Well, that's just for him, right? I mean, because of the
Right,
change.
right,
But
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 that
you're right.
there's your creepy singing spear with
Oh yeah,
AP,
dude, AP2 Singing Spear, man. Or AP
Plunging
minus
Fire
4
AP3.
Eldritch Storm.
Right, well,
AP
yeah,
minus 4, dude. Like that's just going straight through a lot of stuff. Like yeah, it's not a lot of damage. It's only D3 damage, but man, like that combined with everything else, like that's
yeah.
nuts scary, man. Like
Three Eldritch Storms is pretty powerful.
it is. It's massively powerful, man. 3 Eldritch Storms is
What's
really
your
strong.
average shot for that? Probably like 10.
Yeah, well, the Eldritch Storm is way better, I think, on the Skyrunner than the Farseer on foot because of that extra movement as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. It's truly insane.
Yeah. So when are you gonna run this list, Proxy?
Well, I'd have
You
to
might have
cut
to
out some
practice
more
some
cardboard.
Warlocks, huh?
I'd have to get some more cardboard to proxy those Skyrunners. I think I could probably do it though. I have 18 little circles of cardboard for the Windriders because I've run something like that before. So I think I just need to cut out maybe a couple more for this kind of list
Excellent.
because I'm definitely not buying that many. I'll tell you that. But you have that many. You have this
I'll send
army.
pictures. I'll
This
send
is
pictures.
you literally own this, dude. Yeah, I'll put
Uh,
a.
I, there's a few things I need to get, but
What
not
do you need to
much.
get for this list, man? What do you need to get?
Um,
Because you already have the Windriders.
I actually need two more Warlocks because this has
You
11.
need 2 more. Damn.
Right? It
You
says
need two
11,
more Skyrunners. That's
and
crazy,
I need
man.
the Skyweavers. I don't have any Skyweavers.
Yeah, Skyweavers are fun. They're easy to get.
That's all I need.
They're easy to get. They're gonna be. I think they're gonna be pretty meta soon, personally.
Yeah, so good.
I
Ain't
mean,
that
they're already
beautiful?
starting to become, more included. Um.
Especially if Tau is about to be on the rise.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started on Tau. Holy shit. Holy shit. Like I've seen a few battle reports of them. Like they're just nasty, dude. Like they do
Tau probably eats
so
this
much
army.
damage, man. Well, like what we're talking about right now with like the lethal hits and sustained hits and all that stuff and the rerolls to hit and wound. Like they're basically getting that too, but at a fraction of the price. Like the Breacher team nonsense is just it's out of this world. And I think it was powerful now. Like Breachers are extremely powerful. The only thing that is funny about them against Eldar is they jump down, they kill your unit, and then you're like, okay, now you're dead, right? Like, because it's overkill. But against like half the armies in the game, like they really do very well. Like Custodes, they can reliably get tons of wounds on them. They're rerolling all their hits, they're rerolling all their wounds, and they're hitting on a 2+ and usually wounding on a 2+ or a 3+. Against
Ugh,
Custodes, I think they're wounding on a 4+ because of toughness 7, like Aloris Custodes,
right.
Custodians, whatever they're called, the Terminator guys. Like they're
Oof.
toughness 7, so that's a little tough for them because breachers are strength 6, but they're AP -1, and they ignore cover because of marker lights, right? They hit on 3+ base, dude. It's nuts, man. Like seriously, like so what you do, right, with the Tau, and this is a really cheap combination. Like this is basically a devilfish, a breacher team, and a stealth suit. You use the stealth suit to guide the breachers. So you declare the guide target,
Hmm.
and when stealth suits guide a unit, that guided unit gets rerolls of hit and rerolls of wound of 1. Okay, so But Breachers, their special ability is they get to reroll all wound rolls if an enemy target is on an objective.
Oh,
So get this, right? They're hitting on 2+, they're rerolling hit rolls of 1, they're rerolling all their wounds. It's madness, man. It's absolute madness. And I think the Fireblade that joins them gives them sustained hits or something like that. So like
uh,
they're just fishing for sustained hits, man. Like
oh,
it's
maybe we do the same
nuts.
thing here then.
Yep, it's very similar because it's just they can do it for cheaper, and they get lethal hits base because of their Moncod detachment bonus, which is stupid. It's just like army-wide lethals for everything during turns 1, 2, 3.
Right,
Like
Proxy. It doesn't matter. We have Destructor.
we have Destructor, dude. We'll destruct them. You know
Yeah.
what's funny about that though is like literally this list takes it out because breachers have a 10-inch range. So as soon as the breachers get into range and dump off, it's like Overwatch.
Oh, oh no.
Dude,
Yeah.
Overwatch, man.
See ya.
Like you can't outrange me, you can't outposition me. Like
Eat that
I'm
AP
going to be
well.
within 12. Yeah,
Ugh.
it would be very difficult for any Tau player because of the small base size of our warlocks to
Right.
be able to like be with like all within 10 of that squad and also be outside of Overwatch
All
range.
right. Well, is the cheese real? Is the cheese real?
Not against this list,
Right.
but against a lot of stuff out there it is. No, but I think, I don't know, who knows what happens with the Tau, but I think they're a contender, man. Like a lot of people are already saying they're really
Yeah.
strong. And they look strong. I was looking through their codex the other day, and I was just marveling at the synergy between their units and just the raw power that some of their stuff has. It's really good, dude, for the points. And like some people, there's even like rumors about that, like a lot of the units are going to get reduced in price, but I honestly think they'd be top 5 if they didn't touch them. If they just left, the codex points as the codex points and just didn't do anything, top 5 faction, dude. Seriously, they're strong. They're really
Ugh.
strong. It's nasty, man. But I don't know.
Well,
I mean, we'll
you
see.
know,
Who cares?
They'll help us out right when the edition's about to end.
Yeah, because they always do that with Eldar, right? They like wait until the edition ends and like, here's a new codex, and then they like change the edition.
Yeah.
Or they'll give us one in the beginning of the very beginning when like everything like so like we'll be good until like everything starts power creeping.
Right.
Oh my gosh, man.
When the power creep takes over, that's it.
Oh, dude, power creep is something like that can easily be fixed. And I think GW's trying to do it, you know? Because if you look at it like, yeah, the Necrons were really powerful, but at the same time, they're still not obscenely good. Like they're not to the point where they're like at a 70% win rate, right? They're at that 56, 57% win rate. They are high. They're like the Eldar were after September. They're that powerful. But
Mhm.
they're not like 80%, 70%, something ridiculous like the power creep of ninth edition, you know? Like that was just insane to me, the power creep of ninth edition. I thought that was so like bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
9th edition wild ride.
it was a wild freaking ride, man. Like, I think the good thing is GW's realizing how they need to balance things in the future. Now they just need to focus on using that skill to balance old world.
Right.
Like, I feel so bad for like competitive old world players right now. Like, I mean, I guess if you're a competitive old world player, it's just so boring because all you're doing is spamming dragons. Like, that's the whole meta right now. Is just like dragon spam and like magic spam, and that's it. My God, dude. Oh, I'm so glad I barely play. Because, I mean, like, I like the concept of Old World, but, like, I told myself, I was like, I'm not going to invest a dime in it until I, see that it's a balanced game that they're going to continue. And, like, they better, pretty quick, they need to put out a balance patch for some stuff because there's some stuff that's insane. Like, because it's going to die. The last thing I would want is the game to die, you know? Have you ever played
Well,
Warhammer Fantasy?
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah, dude.
I played dwarfs and
Oh, okay, right on. You played.
lizard men. I played lizard
Oh,
men. I
nice, dude.
played
Lizards are.
wood elves.
Wow, so you played with quite a few factions
Oh,
back in the day.
yep.
Cool, dude. That's
Yeah.
tight. Yeah, man, those were the
My
days.
dad played Bretonnians. He had like a knight army that was just it was all knights.
Oh,
He had
cool,
like
dude.
200 of them. I was like,
Wow,
this is obscene.
that's
Yeah,
insane, dude. That's really cool. I like the concept of that. There was a guy I knew in
but
the
they were
local shop
gross
who did
because they
that.
had like a 2-up save,
Yeah. Oh
which
yeah,
was
back
like
in the day
unheard
they
of.
had barded
Yeah,
heavy armor, which gave them a 2 up, and then they had the prayers so they could get like invul saves and stuff or ward saves.
yeah, it was nuts.
Oh my god, dude, they were so freaking tough. I remember there was this guy in our local shop. He had every fantasy army, and I remember he busted out Bretonia one day, and all he had was 4 units of knights, and that was his whole 2,500 point list, I think.
Ugh.
And I was like, I looked at his army, I was like, man, that's small. Like, but then when he told me that because of the lance formation, he got attacks on the flanks as well as the front, I was like, oh fuck, dude.
Ugh.
So as soon as he hit my lines, everything just broke. Like dwarves are running for the hills, dude. Like it was so bad. And like it was funny because I thought like, oh, maybe I'll be able to kill enough of, his models to like, stem the tide. But, my first cannon went through like 8 knights. So I was like, okay, 8 ward saves. And he's like, okay. 8 ward saves, made like 3 of them. He did lose 5 knights, but it did not matter. It did not matter, man. It was just an absolute devastating rout. I'll never forget that game, man. It was one of the first games of, I think it was 6th edition. It was one of those first games of 6th edition where I was just like, man, like I really suck at this game. Either that or this game's really unbalanced. Like, and I think it was a little bit of both.
Right.
Oh man. Well,
GW will figure it out.
yeah, they're doing a
They
lot better
always
than they
do,
used
right?
to. Well,
Right.
well, let's knock on wood on that one because they haven't always been able to figure it out. But
No,
luckily they're doing better. Like I'll give them credit. Like right, they're doing better than they were before for
yeah,
sure.
for sure, for sure.
Like absolutely 100%. Because back in the day, I mean, man, they just really sucked. Like their balance was just bad, 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 and they did not care about it. They were like, nope, we're just here to sell figures. Like we don't
Right.
care about the game that we've created. Which I mean, it was ironic because that was the whole reason what was giving them all the sales was the game they
Exactly.
created
It's
around it.
a cool ass game.
Yeah, it's a cool ass game, and the models are just the representations of the rules, right? Like it's a role play at the end of the day. I mean, I don't know what they thought they were. They thought they were just like a miniatures company who just made miniatures. Like, nah, dude. Like,
Right.
you're not. Newsflash. Yeah, there's other companies that do that, and you're not one of them. Man. Well, what other crazy list ideas do you have, dude? Got
I
anything in
know
the works?
there's one I kind of talked to you about a little bit, at least the idea of it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the fixed objective MSU list,
Oh, yeah. Well,
which
what's
is
funny is like I
interesting.
think actually like that's actually been run, except it wasn't run with fixed objectives. It was run with tactical, but it was run in a tournament, and I did a review on it. It was they had a
Oh,
bunch of different units, like just like MSU everything. They had 3 mandrakes, they had 3 scourges, they had 3 swooping hawks. Like it was just insane amounts of MSU in
yep,
Unari,
yep. Yeah,
and it worked. It won. I think it got
exactly.
either first or second place in a tournament.
Yep.
Like it was really effective.
I'm a craft worlds purist
Ah,
usually, so but
yep.
like in my head, I'm running Warlock on foot solo, 3 of them.
That's funny, dude. I think
You
Warlock on
know,
foot solo is the funniest thing because they obviously are terrible for the points, but they're really kind of funny because you can use them for like really cool stuff. Like they just plug holes in your line. Like a
right?
single model can plug, 9 inches around him of free, no deep strike, and then
Yeah,
score something like, investigate. And it's a 45-point thing. They can use investigate signals on the first turn, so you don't have to move something important there, right? So it's actually pretty good. Like, when I have 45 points left in my list, and like maybe I don't really want weeping stones on something, like maybe I'm just running a solo farce here with fortune in the back, and I'm like, do I really put weeping stones on them? Nah, right? Like I'm putting a warlock in there. I'm putting a single warlock in there, and they've done good. I've deployed teleport homers with them. I've investigated signals with them. Like, they're pretty good. I mean, shoot, even there's even been some games, man, where I've like run them up on like scout units, and through miraculous rolling, getting that heavy flamer to actually do something, like they've killed most of the scouts, like by themselves.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, like seeing these spears or witchblades are no joke. I'd actually be really tempted to give the solo warlocks witchblades just to have them be able to
Yeah.
deal more effectively with space marines with anti-infantry too.
Yeah. Yeah. For
It's not
sure.
bad.
And then like you run like Dire Avengers at only 70 points a unit. Not bad. Rangers, three
Yeah, not
squads of
bad. Yeah,
Rangers.
Rangers are better though, for sure.
Yeah.
Rangers are better for that. But Corsairs even, 5 Corsairs.
Yep.
You can give them a blaster. I think you can give the leader a blast pistol, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Still good. They have scout.
Spread it out. I mean, if you do kind of mix it with Drukari, though, you can get it to like. Drukari's got a lot of cheap
Oh,
units.
absolutely they do,
You
dude.
can get it to about 30 or so
Yeah.
units,
I
which is a
mean,
lot.
let's be real, take no prisoners isn't like very friendly to that, but at the same time, it's like who cares?
It's fine.
Most
Have
people are
it.
running
Yeah.
tactical anyway, you know?
Right.
Because that's the thing, like I've noticed like people have just literally switched to tactical. Tactical is also more fun. I don't know, to me at least. Like in the beginning of the edition, I was really hesitant to go to tactical because in my mind I was like, yeah, CC cleaner, get out of here. I was like, do fixed object like does the randomness like or I should say this, do the extra bonuses of tactical give you an advantage over the randomness of the draws, right? Like I was always
So
like, no, they
one thing
don't.
that
But I've changed my mind because you can only draw so many things, and if you build your army right, you can pretty much score on most of them every turn.
well one problem I have with tactical is so I've lost games by luck of the draw.
Yeah, at the
Really,
end, yeah, true.
it feels so bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I
in
think the other
fixed, you can
mhm,
build fixed is sick with Eldar
you
because
can kind of build for it.
well, so we can get our extra CP, and when we're fixed, like you can't discard a card, get an extra CP. You don't have that ability anymore.
Right,
So we don't care because we have Autark,
right, true.
which is beneficial for Eldar.
Like, let me ask you this though, right? Like, okay, let's say we go fixed. And you have an
Yeah.
opponent who knows you're, going to have behind enemy lines and deployed teleport overs. And he
Yeah.
knows that you're going to be excuse me. He knows that you're going to be trying to get into his back to score objectives. Like, doesn't your opponent, I mean, depending on his army, right? But doesn't your opponent kind of just screen you out for most of the game? Like, he doesn't even try to kill your units. He just says, oh, okay, I'm going to use these units to screen you out so that, like, turns 1, 2, and 3, you're not scoring anything. And
Okay, well,
it's,
if he wants to screen me out in his own deployment zone,
mhm.
I feel like that's probably not good for him either. If he wants to be stuck in his own
Yeah,
deployment
I
zone.
think what that does is it tanks your secondary score and maybe it tanks his primary score a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So like it's kind of a trade-off maybe, but I don't know.
And like ideally, I'm trying to do weird things like get into melee with striking scorpions
Nice,
or
dude.
whatever. You know what I mean? Like on turn one.
The weirdest of tactics. Striking
So,
scorpions in
but like
melee.
also if you think about it, like if you do like deploy teleport homers and behind enemy lines, right? If you
Yeah,
pick those two, I don't need to interact with like okay, you want to be in my way, I can kill enough just to get into where I gotta go.
right.
I think like I
Yeah.
just need to get there, and I don't need to interact with you
Like
at
I'm
all.
just gonna
I'm
throw a bunch of stuff at you and you're not
I'm
gonna
playing
possibly
yeah,
stop it all.
I'm playing solitaire and trying to score points.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
fair
know,
enough.
I have
right?
enough units that are fast enough to get there consistently every turn and do what I
Or
gotta do.
even just like deployed teleport armors is midfield too, like, right? You
You
can
can't.
score it
Yeah,
in the
it's not.
midfield.
It's not ideal, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but you could still get something for it in the first couple turns when you're just, okay, you want to screen me?
Especially if your opponent is stuck. Yeah, and their
Yeah, I'm gonna
opponent is
blow up all your screening units, and then in turns 3, 4, and 5, I'm gonna max my secondaries because I'm gonna be in
yeah.
your like business all day, every day. I'm gonna be on your table. I'm gonna be on your table edge, and
It's an
basically moving all
awkward.
my dice over to your side
Yeah.
because I'm not even playing on my own board edge anymore.
So this kind of idea too is like that awkward list for triple Wayleaper. Like this is where you do that,
Yeah,
and triple Wayleaper's fun,
that's
but
fun, dude. Yeah, triple Wayleaper list, dude. That's the next thing, dude. How do you fit triple Wayleaper in your list and actually make it work? You know, like
right,
actually
exactly.
make the I mean, how much does it even
They're
cost?
another thing.
115, 115 points work.
They're another thing that's kind of interesting. Like you roll three. Like I've played a few games of three. I'll admit it, but when you roll them together, like you just like multiply their force by three. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they can do some work together. They can do some work.
You know what's funny, man? I think this might be like the second like talk we've had,
The,
like where this triple
oh, we're all
Wayleaper
talking about
like
triple A.
legend,
Yeah.
like this legendary triple Wayleaper like build comes out, dude. We're gonna need
I,
to do that in the next one. We're gonna
w-
like have to
my
strategize that out.
I haven't played it the way I've been wanting to, just 'cause I haven't had it modeled that way.
Uh-huh.
But I want to go. Um,
Triple fusion or what?
no, triple. Called Death Spinner. So you go triple Death Spinner, and then you go Manda Blasters.
Uh-huh. And just mortal
Then you have
wound.
triple Wayleaper Death Wound,
You're an
fucking
absolute
Death
madman, dude.
Ball.
You're an absolute
Yeah,
madman.
isn't that wild?
Just mortal wounds to hell and back, man.
Right, right.
That's so funny. Well,
And
like
like, and
you're
they can't be shot at. They got lone op and stuff, and they're just weirdos just rolling around the
yeah,
battlefield,
I suppose. I mean, you're getting
smacking mortal wounds.
well. Think about this, right? Like the Death Spinner, what does it get? An average of 10 dice for 3 ways. So you're getting about 1.5 mortals for 3 of them. Is that
That's
worth it?
fine. No, probably not.
No, it's
But that's okay because it just adds on to all the Starglaive mortals we're about to
it's
get.
like it's like no, it's not worth it. But I love it.
Exactly.
It's not
It's the
it's
theme. They
not
just
worth it
roll
at
up and
all.
smack mortal wounds.
You're like Proxy Hammer, no, but it's
But I
awesome.
mean, yeah, okay. And then
It's cool.
okay, you missed with your fusion gun. Ooh.
Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you missed like, how do you feel now? Triple ones, dude. Wouldn't you
Right?
rather have
Yeah.
taken the death spinners?
See? And it
Oh
doesn't
my
matter because
god,
we're
dude.
going to be doing more mortal wounds in melee.
Okay, dude, get this. I have a funny story for you. So, chat, give me some comments in the comment section if you've ever had something like this happen. So, this was a long time ago. This was like in the beginning of 6th edition, but I go up against this guy who has a really old style kind of Space Marine army, and like he had a lot of the old models, and he had a lot of the models from the Battle of Macragge box set, which have
Oh, okay.
flamers, right? Like, so obviously, even back then, flamers on Space Marines were terrible.
Hmm.
They were awful. It was basically just like having another bolter that maybe like hit a few more times.
I
So
think it's like
like,
a worse bolter
oh,
sometimes.
it was definitely sometimes actually worse because of the range, right? Like the range was just so bad. It was like 8 inches back then with the flamer template. Like, so you barely hit anything with it, but especially against a good opponent, wouldn't let you like get a bunch of them. So he's running like flamers on all his guys, and I'm like, is there anything? So before the game begins, I'm like, is there anything I should know about your list? Like what kind of weapons you have and stuff like that. And he's just like, oh, everything's just kind of what it is. I was like, okay. So I went through my stuff because of course proxy hammer I gotta have some stuff proxied. So I was like, okay,
Yep, yep.
my wave serpent turrets are not what they are. They're scatter lasers or whatever. And I went through it with him. He's like, okay, cool, like no problem, just let me know. And it was totally chill, thought nothing of it. Um, so we're getting into the game, and at some point I had charged him with some Howling Banshees, and I killed one unit of Space Marines, and I kind of went into cover, and what I assumed was that he had no template weapons in his list, because he said everything was,
It was all.
it was, it was, well, yeah, like I assumed he
Oh
didn't
no.
have that. Um, I was wrong. I don't know why I thought this. I don't know why I exactly thought that maybe he
You
was
fell to the
proxying,
crag.
but I forgot about the Battle of Macragge, dude. It's like I was like, cause like in my mind, like for some reason he told me everything's kind of what it is, and I just like, you know, I just totally forgot. Like he was actually running the shittiest of builds. With the shitty build actually got me because he moved forward with his unit, and he's like, "All
Like,
right, flamer," and I was like, "Oh no." Dude, I thought you were running something else. I totally forgot. And he's like, no, no, no. Remember,
just,
I told you everything was like Wzywig, basically. And I was like,
well, you don't have to
damn, dude.
proxy models when they're off the battlefield.
Yep, that's true. You could just Invisalign, dude. Invisalign that shit. Just like, nope, it's not even there, dude. You could just have like a base. Well, dude, like in some games, I literally just run bases, cardboard bases for like stand-ins. Because like, here's my thing: is like, why should I limit myself by what I have? Like, if I want to really learn how to use every unit in the index, like,
Right,
am
for
I gonna
sure.
really go out and spend like thousands of dollars to do that? Nah, man. I'm just gonna like proxy with bases, and that's what I say to everybody. Like, if you want to try a unit out, but your wallet's tight, you don't feel like spending that money. Like, unless you really like the unit, think it's cool. Like, if you're just trying it out for the tactics and stuff, dude, just use bases. Just cut out some cardboard bases, use some proxy
Yeah,
models. You know?
I think a lot of people would be surprised too, like how much like the Eldar community is very tight knit,
Yeah.
and I think people would be surprised how much we support one another if you just ask.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely,
You
man.
know,
Like, and check this out, right? Like this list we came up with all these Warlock Skyrunners. Like, a couple people out there might be like, well, I don't really want to run something like this because I have to buy like, oh, so many Warlock Skyrunners. I have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that.
right?
Just proxy it, dude. Like,
No,
just proxy it.
or hit up Dead of Night, and Dead of Night's like, okay, well, I have 6 of them that are just kind of like you can figure it out, maybe make something with it.
That's
You
so
know,
funny, dude.
like please take it.
Dead of night,
You know, like
you're
even
like,
even in your Discord proxy, like one of the fellows was looking for like Wraithblade stuff.
oh
I don't
yeah.
really have. I didn't really have like
Did you give
bodies,
that
but
guy any
I had
Wraithblade
arms.
stuff? Did
Yeah,
you? Oh,
yeah,
cool, dude.
I hit
Right
him up.
on.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
even know that
So
happened. That's cool.
no, yeah. So like, I don't want anything for it. It's just
Yeah.
sitting in a drawer. You know,
Wow,
like
dude, that's really nice of you, man.
he could use it.
Yeah.
Right, but that's how the community should be.
It should be like that, man. Like it really should. Like extra bits, like, oh, I have some extra bits. I'm never gonna use them.
Right.
Like, hey,
Down the road, if I'm looking for something and he
yeah,
happens to have it,
I'll,
he'll hit me back.
yeah,
You
dude,
know,
I'll
that's
I'll
how
I'll
it is.
buy a
Trade.
dollar like postage stamp or whatever forever stamp. I'll send it in the mail.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's cool, man. Like, yeah, that's how it should be. And I think the Elder community is really cool about that stuff. Like, I don't know about other Warhammer communities. I just know that like Eldar players are pretty cool for the most part.
Yeah,
Like, I've
like I
only
mean,
ever met.
even yourself, anytime you're selling stuff, I try to buy stuff from you to support what you got going on.
Well, of course, thank you
You
for
know,
that, by the way. Yeah,
like
I
that's
get a lot of like random shit like that I'll never use, and I just have a lot of
right.
stuff like in my backlog of like I'll never build this, I'll never paint this, I'll never, you know what I mean? Like so,
No,
but
yes, yeah, same. But we'll get there one day.
one day, man, one day. Yeah, I mean, the thing about me is like I hate having a pile of shame. Like that's the worst. Like it makes me
Same.
so demoralized to like actually do. So I've just learned like to do without, you know?
So this is what you got to do with your pile of shame, right? You got to think of it differently.
Okay.
So basically, you look at it, then you turn it into new model day,
Hmm.
and you make custom models out of your pile of shame.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I have so many Wayleapers. Like,
You have all the Wayleapers. You have like 20
I
Wayleapers, I bet,
think
dude.
I
You're
got
like
like
hoarding
6.
Wayleapers. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna be like hugging them all. Like one day, I'm gonna have to like
well, I had some busted up
get you
swooping
some
hawks.
help.
I overbought on swooping hawks one
Wayleaper
time. So I'm like, oh, I
Anonymous,
got
dude.
wings. Yeah, I got wings. I got random howling banshees. We'll smash it together.
You'd be like, I have to take you to a Wayleaper
Like
anonymous
like
meeting, dude.
my triple Wayleaper list is Banshee Mask, Banshee Sword, and Reaper Launcher. They
That's
look sick.
that's
Like,
cool, man. No, that's really cool, man. I think I've seen pictures. I think they're
right?
really.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, I just what's funny? I just got an eBay. I just bought something on eBay. There was a Falcon, a Viper, Jane Czar, and 5 Howling Banshees. And I
Oh,
hope it's coming soon. Yeah, I was like, I bought it for $90. Like the guy was, it bid it up to $90, and I bought it. I don't know if that was a
nice little
mistake
strike
yet
force
though.
right there.
I'm thinking that was like a impulse buy because I really don't need the Howling Banshees. Like I really don't. But I just bought them because I was like, man, that's a good deal. Like all that stuff for $90. I was like, I'm gonna do it, you know. And
I can't wait for one day to buy some of my old models. You know what I mean? I
oh
haven't
yeah,
found any yet. Have you ever had encountered that?
your own models like from way back.
Like on eBay or
Oh
something?
yeah, I recently encountered something like that. Like I found 3 Warwalkers used to be mine on eBay, and I offered the guy half price for them because they were terribly painted. Like I did such a bad job. Like when I say it was embarrassing, it was. Like the guy had to, and just I free-handed some things on there that were probably not appropriate, and he had to cover it up. He had to paint over it. It was so funny to see that. Because, like, I was looking on eBay, I had to do a double check. I'm like, oh, this does look familiar. And I looked at him and was like, those are mine. And I checked them out, and, like, it's like, sure enough, like, some of the symbols were, like, blotted out with, like, yellow paint. But, like, you
That's
could still
wild.
see the end of the paint. Like, you could definitely tell, like, he did not like that about the models. Like, oh, man. That's crazy shit. I think I sold him back in the day for like it must have been like $70 for 3 Warwalkers. It was Warwalkers too, and I offered 50 for them just to have them. Like I was like, yeah, like these are mine. Would you take 50 for them? The guy said no, and they ended up selling for like I think 75 or something like that. But I don't know.
Dang.
Some things are better left in the past.
Right, right. Yeah,
With their
your
freaking
penis
obscene,
blockers.
obscene symbols like drawn on the freaking Warwalkers, dude. Well, because I mean, like, I used to run them, and they used to be really cheesy. Like in the time I ran them, it was missile launcher scatter laser, and they would blow up pretty much
Oh
anything in the
yeah.
game. Like any infantry unit, dead. Like it was so bad that I'd play against my buddies in college, and they would see those on the battlefield, and if I got first turn, they would just take a mental note. They'd be like, "Dude, it's game over. I lost." And it was just like, it was like a Gatling gun, just dead, dude. Oh my god, man. Eldar in 6th edition, when they got their new codex, were so OP, dude. It wasn't even fun to play casual games anymore with them. I would run the most jank, weird shit, and I would win games, like table my opponents. It was so
Oh
bad.
yeah.
Oh, dude, I would run so much jank, like units that were considered terrible, and I would just
See,
run
that's
them
my
and do
favorite.
great.
My favorite. That's how you become a good autark.
Yeah, well, I mean, I felt like that was actually after 6th edition. Like, I did take a little break from Eldar to play other stuff, to play Imperial Guard, because it was just so bad that I wasn't
Yeah.
having fun. Well, it's like, okay, think about it this way, DeadofNight. Remember the beginning of this edition with the Wraithknights, how OP they were?
Right.
But there was other units in the Codex that weren't OP and that were just good, and it was fun. Like, they were fun to play. They were interactive. Like, think about an army that the entire army was like Wraithknights, dude. Like, really uninteractive. Like, everything had battle focus back then. That was the first edition where everything got battle focus, man. Like, that's where
Yeah.
it came from. So, back then, everything got that battle focus move, but it wasn't limited by terrain. So, you could literally have your entire army just come out of cover, 1 inch, shoot, go back.
Wasn't Battle Focus back then straight up 6 inches?
I think it was D6 or it was straight
Oh,
up
it's
3.
D6.
I don't think it was ever 6.
No.
But you're thinking of, you know what you're thinking of though? Jet bikes. Jet bikes used to move 6 inches in the assault phase.
Ah.
So like they had it. But the thing about jet bikes, they were expensive back in the day, dude. They're really
Yeah.
expensive. They were like 30 points for like shuriken cannons. Like they're pretty pricey.
Well,
So
that's one of my
typically
favorites.
what
I love the old jet bikes. They look like they're like the Cadillac of jet
oh
bikes.
yeah, dude. Yeah, because they're like riding on their like yeah they're riding the style, dude.
The
The
Harleys.
old jet bikes, yeah, dude. Well, that's what they were really modeled after. If you look at like some of the inspirations for that time period of like modeling, like they were all modeled after that stuff. It was like dark punk rock, um, kind of like
Oh
culture,
yeah.
like with Warhammer, like very much so. Like you had noise marines that were carrying literal guitars,
Right.
like
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
weapons,
Yeah. Those
like
are
those
cool.
days are gone, dude. Like GW's never going back to that. Like some of those old models are classics for a reason. Like that
Right.
aesthetic is never returning. Like the grimdark aesthetic, I'm sorry, it's never returning. Like that doesn't that's not coming back, man. You know? I don't know why. It was such a cool aesthetic. Like I liked a lot of the old like stuff like but yeah, what are you going to do, you know?
Right. For sure. But yeah, no, I hope we inspire some of the other autarchs to maybe think outside the box. I think
Yes.
that's my favorite thing about this army. There's so many different things you can do.
Yeah, dude, I think so. And I think like that's the cool thing about this edition too is, a lot of people had and maybe they're right in some ways, but they said, "Oh, there's so much less customization." Right? But what it lets you
True.
do actually is it lets you kind of and there is, right? That is true. There is less customization, but there's so
I was
many
disappointed
themed
in that,
kind of yeah. I mean, it was weird,
but it's so
right?
much more to keep
Because
track of.
there
That
was
was
so much to
made
keep
it a
track of,
mess.
man.
You
And
know.
and really if you wanted to be super competitive or if you wanted a good army, you had to follow a certain thing because a lot of the things were just useless and now you can actually make viable lists with some of this jank stuff that we're talking about, right? Like this
Right.
2000 point Warlock destruction list. I mean just look at it. You're running max units of Warlock Skyrunners. You'd never be able to do this last edition. Like that wasn't a real thing. Like you would not be running that, you know?
I mean,
It was oh,
normal
you
people.
did, didn't you? You ran it. You would
What do you,
do it.
Proxy? What do you think I was doing last? You know how many psychic powers I was casting? I was
Oh
casting
man.
like
I just want
14
to
or
know
15 a turn. It
like
was
how many
insane.
times you perilled to the warp.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. We got saves for
It
that.
didn't matter. I'd lose my Oh yeah, because of Boothway, right? +1
Yeah,
to psychic test and mortal protection. Yeah, dude, that
yeah,
was
yeah.
that was so good.
Who cares?
Dude,
Tell you what though, here's 8 smites.
oh fuck, dude, that was so insane. You know what? You may be right. Maybe it was better last edition. Let's be real. Mortal
You know,
wounds.
and
Oh, dude.
I ran the gangster pistol farseer.
Oh my god, dude.
The farseer that's just like, oh by the way, here's 15 mortals.
Dude, don't even get me
Like
started
what?
on that. That was so crazy when that came out. Like, that
Yeah.
was so
So yes, I
nuts.
was running them. I was running them all.
That's cool. No, I mean they were good, I guess. I guess really what it was like there was just some units that just were like unusable, and now like I think most Eldar units are usable. Like Storm Guardians were unusable. Guardian Defenders were terrible, pretty much, except if you ran them to literally die, then they were okay.
Right. Right.
Um, and then yeah, I mean for the most part, like most other units are okay, but Dark Reaper is unusable, right? Like there were just unusable units in the codex that just sucked and were so bad. But now you have more that's viable, right?
For
Like
sure.
more stuff's viable, at least in my opinion.
Everything has a role. Everything can be used
Yeah, for
somehow.
sure, for
Maybe
sure.
not ideally, but it could be used.
I'm hoping like when we finally get our new detachments, like whenever that is with the codex or
Yeah,
just earlier,
it should open up a
that
lot of cool
it
stuff.
opens up more opportunities, more lists, more builds, like new things to try. Like that's what interests me about this game. Like some people they have their list and it never changes, like ever. And every
Right.
time like there's a new addition, they're like so upset. Like, "Oh, they changed my points." Like,
That's why I can't. That's why I keep buying Eldar
yeah.
because I like to play different things
Yeah.
sometimes too.
Yeah, eventually
Especially
you'll get
all the
sure.
bad units.
I mean, GW loves you. No, I'm just kidding. I know that you
I
buy
I
from
wonder what
people
you
first,
I
which is
wonder what
good.
your view I wonder what the viewers would like to see some like random crazy lists made of. I bet we could make some for them
That would be cool.
out of units that they love maybe.
That would be really cool.
Like I want to. I've been trying to figure out how to use the fucking Webway Gate.
Dude, so have I, and I don't think there's a
Like how
way.
Mm,
I don't know
the-
if there's a way, dude. I'm just gonna tell you right now, like I was thinking about it, like,
I bet
but
the secrets are in the warp.
the secrets are lost, dude. I mean, I'm not even attuned to the warp enough to understand like how to use it. I think the main problem with the thing is that, like
It's
it,
gonna be like some weird way where you gotta play a Revenant Titan in
yeah.
3 Webway gates.
Actually,
Uh,
let's real quick to end the video. Let's bring up the Webway Gate and just look at it and just see, just look at
Look at
it.
its sadness.
It's so like every fortification in the game is bad, but this is like has to take the cake, right? Like
So, didn't they still haven't changed the rules on them at all, have they?
no, well they did because
I haven't
now
looked at them in
it
a long
can't be
time.
deployed wherever. It has to deploy in your deployment zone. So I think that's what sucks about it, right? But like it's special rule. So first of all, if you're behind it, if you're partially obscured, you get cover, which is not really a big deal, right? It's not worth
Huh.
220 points or whatever it is, but its special ability each time a friendly Eldari unit arrives from strategic reserve, you can choose to set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within 6 of this fortification. If you do, that Eldar unit can be set up within 9 of enemy models and can be set up within engagement range. If an Eldar unit is set up with engagement range, it counts as having made a charge move this turn and is eligible to fight this turn. Now, that
That's
is
pretty good.
good, but your enemy, your opponent has to be either a fool and move within 6 inches of that, so you can basically override Overwatch. Like, I'm placing my unit of Howling Banshees right there, and I don't care about Overwatch anymore because I'm already in engagement. So you cannot Overwatch me. Or you know, um, your opponent has to be a heavy melee army, right? Like they have to be in your deployment zone, like turn 2, fighting you. The other issue with this is that it can only be deployed in your deployment zone, so it can't be deployed anywhere, which does suck.
True,
You know?
but certain maps could probably take advantage of that because certain maps, the deployment zone is very wide.
You know, it is, but if you look at the terrain setups, like there's only two
I guess
places that it could really go.
I keep trying to think in my mind. Can we use 3? No,
I
no.
don't think you can use more than one. I think they're limited.
Oh, they are
I
limited to one.
think, I think, don't quote me because I haven't really looked at it, but I think so. They can also be
Okay, so for
destroyed,
one.
which also sucks. I mean, they're toughness 12, 3 plus save, 14 wounds. They're
So
they're they're not
what?
easy. They're not hard to kill, right?
It's on the home objective. We make the home objective sticky,
But I don't
and we
think it
just
can
leave.
deploy on an objective.
But no.
No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
we'll put it near it
Yeah,
anyways.
sure, yeah, of course. But then you could just come from normal reserve, right? Like
Now I
from
wonder.
on
I
board.
wonder. What if we look at the maps? I mean, how many maps? So, like your home objectives, obviously, in your
Yeah,
deployment zone. But there's usually in no man's land. The center one's kind of close,
yeah,
usually, and the off center ones aren't usually too terribly far from your deployment zone.
right. But then you run into the problem of you're coming out of reserve, you can't move after you get out, right? So you're stuck to that
Can we
6 inches.
position this Webway Gate in a way where it can kind of cover all of no man land objectives, or
See,
be close to two of them, and your
see,
home one
that would
be
be
kind of in the
good,
center?
but you kind of have to choose, right? You have to choose your poison, and each time if you do set it up on the board, it's going to be 6 inches away from every single objective. If you do it like that, it's going to be more
Okay,
than
so
6 inches.
so that's got to be decent if it's kind of centered between two of them, we'll say,
Okay. So I'm
if
hearing
not
you. I'm
three.
hearing you. So what else? Like, so if it's between
So,
two
so like,
objectives, what
so
happens
the
then?
the power with the Webway Gate is strategic reserves can come into wherever the Webway Gate is,
Right.
as opposed to the edge of the board, and
Hmm.
we could fight out of strategic reserve
Okay. So that's
potentially.
good. So then I guess the question is, what's stopping your opponent from just destroying it?
I mean, if they want to waste their shots on,
But it is 220 points. Like, I take that. If I saw a Webway Gate on the other side of the field and it was out in the open first turn, I'd be like, all right, I might as well. I mean, hey, I might get, with all the last cans I have, I might get lucky, kill it. You know, I don't know. I think it's good to think about. Like, I think this could actually be better on a really terrain dense board. I think it'd be much better.
Yeah.
Like on WTC, if it had room to deploy, it would be better than on like GW like layouts. Like my group usually plays with GW layouts just for simplicity's sake because WTC layouts like you need more terrain and you need specific like L-shaped runes for it.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess you could, deploy this if you could deploy it on WTC, like on one of the, kind of maybe medium density terrain layouts that WTC has. I guess you could kind of field this thing
Yeah.
in your own
Yeah.
deployment zone as a way
Yeah.
to,
The
like, I
only
don't
thing
know,
I could,
screen.
yeah, yeah.
Because
The
I
only
mean, it's
thing I could
pretty
really
big,
think
right?
of, the only thing I could really think of is like literally it could plug the gap between
Hmm.
your deployment home objective and mid board objective.
Right.
So it could be like that midway point.
Yeah.
And kind of in a weird way protect your home objective because
Because
if they want to
enemies, yeah,
qualify
true.
it,
That's a good idea, I think. That's a good idea because it is treated as a single model with both arches. I think you're right on that because 220 points seems really steep. It has OC 0. We don't have anything that gives OC though in
so within
because
6 inches.
if it had like OC like, well, that wouldn't even matter anyway,
If we
actually.
if we put this on the
Doesn't
edge of
matter.
our deployment zone,
Uh-huh.
like how close can we make the Webway Gate to the center objective? Like how many inches?
Well, that'd depend on the terrain, but typically about maybe 11,
12? Yeah,
10.
11?
Well, I say 11 because you can't deploy this thing on top of terrain. So like
No. Right.
it'd probably be about
But
11.
I'm just saying, can we like if because we gotta set up within 9 inches or no within
6
6 inches.
inches, yeah.
Okay.
See, that's the thing I
Well,
kind of think of,
we
but
can potentially pop out of it and just shoot whatever's in the
or
center.
fire and fade, right?
Yeah, fire and fade.
You could get onto
But
it.
if they want to be near it, like at all,
Yeah.
we just pop out and charge or
See,
get
I
melee.
think probably the only real way to use this thing is like on a really terrain dense board and you have Howling Banshees in reserve,
Yeah.
right? Or you have some sort of melee unit in reserve and like you are in a meta that's like revolving around melee combat. Like if we ever got to that point where melee combat was like the meta, and Eldar maybe don't have the strong melee that other factions do. I think the Webway Gate could be a way to kind of screen a good portion of your opponent's army out, while also being able to move units from reserve, out of reserve, and within melee range so that you could count as charging. So units like Howling Banshees could, just get their attacks. Units like Striking Scorpions, Harlequins, count as charging. They get the +1 to wound, right? So they get all their charging bonuses. I think that's
Yeah.
probably the way to do it. Like, I think a melee-oriented army could work well with this.
Harlequins. Yeah.
But you'd really have to plan around it. And I think
Well,
if
yeah.
you're
If you're running
going,
it, you definitely have to
yeah, if you're
build
going
around it.
that deep into it, I just don't know if your opponent doesn't see that and kill it right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm just thinking from my perspective, if I saw an opponent's army, and if we were playing a casual game, like, you know what, I would just tell that player, I'm not going to shoot it. I'm going to let you use your fortification because I want you to have fun with it. But if I was playing a competitive game, that thing would be dead turn one, and your whole strategy would be up in smoke. And I'd be
I mean, yes and
like,
no. I mean,
you
if
know,
you still have the majority of your army in strat reserve.
regular reserve at this point. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could come in on board edges, which is still good,
Yeah.
but I'm getting Overwatch, right? Like, you're 220 points down. I have more points than you, so I can outtrade you and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's not
I
competitive. I
know
don't
there's
think
I know there's
that's
plenty of
the
reasons to hate
point.
on it, Proxy. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find the reasons to make it
No,
work.
dude, I totally agree. I totally agree. But I'm even thinking like in casual settings, is it
Even
good?
making
You
it work
know?
makes me hate it.
It's a cool model, man. I really wish fortifications would
Oh yeah,
like.
it's a pretty
It's
fortification
so
too.
beautiful. Like I love Eldar like architecture. I think it's so cool. And
I
correct me
wish
if
I
I'm
wish there
wrong.
was a
Are
way we could
those
run.
okay? Now this is gonna be a little weird. Are those female Wraith Lord statues or male? They look
Actually,
like female ones, and I think that's interesting that they have
I might
that.
have to make a conversion,
I
right?
because look, watch. We'll just zoom in here. I'm gonna show everybody. I mean, that kind of looks female to
The
me. Right? I mean, right
Howling
here,
Banshee Wraith Lord.
kind of. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, look at the top.
those hips don't lie, man.
Yeah, I think we might have to do some
I
conversions
think,
made.
yeah, dude, I think that'd be super cool.
You can
Like to
make two
use
out of
this,
it.
yeah, you could. You could make that. You could definitely make that. I think this is a cool
I
model.
think,
I like this
yeah,
model. It's cool.
that's that's what we're doing. We're gonna make some Wraith Lords.
Even the head, like if you just took the head off of it and used it like as like a Wraith Lord head, that'd be so cool. Look at that thing. Like that looks so
You,
awesome.
you, you know what's super neat too is the rest of it you could use on like a Wraithknight base or something
Yeah,
like that.
for sure.
You know,
Actually, you know what I've always thought of? Like, I thought a cool conversion would be to take half of it and put it on a Wraith Knight base and have the Wraith Knight looking like he's coming out of it.
come out right? Yeah,
Like with his sword, like if you could like make it like so it looks like he's two-handing his
it's
like
like
sword, like
he's
ready
too
to
big. He's like
chop, dude.
crawling under it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. Like he'd have to duck, you know?
Right? Yeah, he's like ducking through it, like
Duck
holding onto
under
the
it, you
top of it.
know?
Like what
Yeah, dude. That's
the
sick.
Wraith
That could
cannon
be
pointed
cool.
out the side.
Man, like I really wants me like now I want to do that. Now I want to buy one, get a Wraith Knight, buy that, and like convert it like up, make it look all nice. Like that's such a good idea.
Same.
And you're like making me want to purchase things, man.
Stop
This
it.
looks cool. I like how Harlequins are coming out of here too. Like that's super epic. Like that looks so cool. Like man, I wish these
Right.
were like good, man.
I would if they were like if they were cheaper, we could run like three of them, and we can go in and out of them.
Well, if we could, like I think they're limited,
Like
right,
that'd
to
be sick.
one.
No, right, but I'm just saying if that's like kind of what they
You know what they
did,
really should be? Like
that'd be
I'd
so
I'd
Eldar.
almost consider taking one for 100 points, and I'll tell you why. Because at 100 points, if you look at the toughness and stuff, it's
Yeah, it's
toughness
not bad.
12, 14 wounds.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough for 100 points. Like if it was 100, you know. And it's a fortification. I think it can still get the benefit of cover if it's concealed. This is for models that are behind it. But I don't know. Like you could maybe
Maybe I
target it
don't
with
know what the
fortune or
fortification
something.
is.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if it can be targeted with stuff, but I'm just thinking like, it
Is
may not actually
Eldari?
be
It
yeah,
is Eldari.
it
It
is
is
all
Eldari.
yep, it can be targeted with fortune, right? Like
It's hard to wound, baby.
yeah.
T12 hard to wound.
Like and
Gnarly.
having that as bait out in this like out in this field, like out in the open, like first turn and being like, yep, go
You
ahead.
got a Farseer in the back. Just cast fortune on
Yeah,
this
I might
fucking
as well cast it,
structure.
right? Like if I don't have anything else. And then my opponent can't kill it, and just imagine like them wasting a bunch of shots on this thing and it doing nothing. Like yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
your
for
fate
100
nicely
points,
saves.
exactly, maybe for 100 points it has some value, dude. Oh my
Oh, it's got
gosh.
deadly demise too.
Oh no. That's so bad,
Go.
but it's funny, but it's bad. It's like, why does this thing have deadly demise? That makes no sense. It's Wraithbone, man. It's Wraithbone. That makes no
It is a
sense that it has deadly demise.
it is well, it is a Webway Gate.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's like, yeah, true. You're right. You know what though? Honestly, like I think Webway Gates should just be like invulnerable to damage, or they should have stealth or something like that. You know, like in the game Dawn of War, like where they have
Right.
stealth.
Yeah.
All right, man. I know it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for you, so
Oh yeah, it's
I'll
all
let you
good.
go. But thanks for joining me, and
Yeah,
to
sure. Thanks
everybody
for my
listening.
list.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I love hearing your ideas, dude. That's why I have you on so much, because like they're just so wacky, and I love talking about wacky things. So it's awesome.
Perfect.
To all the listeners out there and supporters, thank you so much for supporting me and, continuing to watch my videos. If you have any ideas about, videos you want to see next, I'm working on an Avatar of Cain video next. If you want to see something like that, let me know in the comment section. Let me know what crazy list ideas you guys have had. And, if you do want to support the channel, I do have a Patreon that has free trials activated on it, which will grant you access to our Discord. And we have a lot of cool conversations in there as well. So check that out in the description. The link will be there. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everybody. Peace out.